Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, and today I have a guest for you. I have two guests for you. We have invited shop owners Dan and Robin Haynes, who are members of our Retailers Inner Circle, which is my monthly coaching group, my private coaching group. And they are from Eureka, Missouri, which is near St. Louis. I didn't know where it was, so I had to look that up as well, too. And they're a husband and a wife duo who are now a little over a year into store ownership. They bought an existing brand and they're going to share their story with me today and with us on the podcast here. And that's why I invited them in. They have an extensive real estate and sales and leadership background. And this is a different venue. We all know a different business, I guess, in owning an equestrian shop. And it is really a great conversation on how to take a older brand, a tired brand, and refresh it. It's a great conversation around that, and why maybe we need to also be paying attention to our brands and making sure that we're keeping them fresh so they don't get tired. It's a great conversation around leadership and around building a business that you are not necessarily going to have to be in, so you can grow by building your team. So you don't have to be in on the floor all the time. So we have some great conversations around how they're planning on their vision for their business is that of not running it, like not being in it. It's not a job. We talk about that here a lot on the podcast as well. We talk about some of the surprises and what to pay attention to when you're buying a brand or if you want to sell your brand. So there's some really big, great conversations in here. I could have talked to them for another hour, but we tried to keep it tight for you guys. I think that so many retailers can learn so much from this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I loved talking to Dan and Robin in this kind of format. Dan is a great participant inside the Retailers Inner Circle. If you're looking to be with more people like Dan and Robin, and if you think the way that they think about growing your retail brand, join us inside the Retailers Inner Circle. We'd love to continue conversations in there. And thanks for listening. I was really excited to have them come in. So thanks for being here. And let's get on and meet with Dan and Robin. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. So, welcome, Dan and Robin. I'm so happy to have you here on the Creative Shop Talk podcast. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning. So I have a million questions. And first of all, if you'd like to introduce yourself. So it's fun doing two people, just for the record, so feel free to have one or both of you explain. I'd love to know, I guess, your business journey. How did you end up at the Golden Horseshoe?
Oh, that's a long story, I guess. But so we're entrepreneurs. We've been in the real estate business, real estate sales, as well as investing for 25 years. Always looking for an opportunity. I have another business that's an auditing business of real estate files. And so we're just always on the hunt. And our daughter had started working at this store at Golden Horseshoe a couple of years ago, really 3 years ago, I guess, and learned that it was for sale. And so we started talks with the owners, and it took
6 months.
6 months, I guess, to really kind of bring that to terms. And we took over last year in 2023.
Yeah, that's exciting. I have a lot of questions around that. So you went from real estate, I know you both are into real estate and understand that business really well, to, hey, let's buy a store. So obviously, was your daughter, are you into riding, or are both of you?
Well, this is the barn dad.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm not into riding. I'm the support person. That's my job.
Yeah. I've been in and out of horses for 30 years, and we had raised my daughter when she was younger to barrel race. We're on the western side of horses. We had gotten out of horses for a little bit, and then she really had a passion for it and wanted to get back in and started doing some volunteer work, and then got this job, and that led her to being back in horses. And so this makes sense. Like, we knew about the industry. I don't want to say that we knew everything, because we still don't, but it was it was an industry that we would like to be in and had some familiarity with.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if my audience or if you know that I was a barn mom for years. We had horses, and yeah, so I've been to all the show. I've done the thing. I've mucked my share of, of stuff. We had the horse trailers and did the shows and all the fun stuff around barn. So there is a lifestyle, a family lifestyle. I always like to say our whole family ended up, because our daughter was riding and we owned horses. And so I get that world. I understand that world. And it's also like a lot of our listeners, it's a hobby, passion, something you care about, something in your peripheral lifestyle, I guess, that we want to turn into a business or, opportunities as you saw. So I love that your daughter worked there. I love that whole line, which is also a side note and a side lesson for our listeners. You never know who's listening or who's paying attention if you're thinking about selling your business. Like, there's always somebody around. Like, maybe they would have no idea you were listening. So that's another thing to think about. So no retail experience. You didn't own any retail prior to?
No, we do have retail experience. It's a little different than this. We both were involved with, if you're old school like we are, you remember Kinko's, used to be Kinko's Copies back in the day. And Robin managed for them for how many years? 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked for them for several years. That's actually where we met, was at that company. And then we had, for a couple of years, we had a kids resale shop. We took, tried our hand at that. Various, that I think that's probably most of the retail that we've had in the past years. So.
Right. So tell us about the Golden Horseshoe. Where are you located and size of your store, and what do you sell? What's
So Eureka, Missouri, which is just outside of St. Louis. The Golden Horseshoe has actually been here for 42 plus years. It was originally started by a family and a friend, and they ran it for those whole 42 years. The person who ran it actually passed away a couple years ago, 3 years ago now,
Yeah.
which is what ended up causing the sale, because the folks who actually owned it financially weren't involved in the day-to-day business. But we do both English and Western, tack, saddles, apparel, accessories. It's a 2-level shop, kind of in an older building. So this is a little bit of a smaller town, kind of walkable town. How much square footage?
We're just over 3,000 square feet. And it's on 2 levels, so and it's broken up, so it's a little bit of a challenge to run a retail store in.
Yeah.
2 levels, always a challenge. Always a challenge. And existing clientele, have you changed a lot of the inventory, or are you doing services as well, or just sales?
I guess trailer rental is our service currently.
That's cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we have an education arm that's sort of been a on again, off again, that we have some big plans for, but that's about the only service, I think.
I think if you ask customers, we've completely changed the store. Now, does that mean we've changed all the products? No, but the store had really gotten to be tired, sad, dirty, dark. They just kind of kept piling more things in here and putting things together in a fashion that just didn't make sense. So when we came in, we had fresh eyes. So we revamped the floor plan. So everything has moved around, and we'll have people walk through the front door, and you can tell when it's their first time back in, because they walk in like they know where they're going, and then they immediately stop and look around like they walked into the wrong store. So it's a dramatic difference. But in terms of the stock, relatively the same stock. We're just increasing the options that we have.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a base. We used what they had as a base level, and we're cleaning out old inventory and bringing in, making the lines more complete as far as like sizes and things like that.
Yep.
But then also Robin has brought in a lot of decor and jewelry and things far beyond the quantity that we had before, which is really turning it into a shopping experience, I think. And I think people are finding that they love to come out. The number of customers that come in now and they're here for 30, 45 minutes, an hour is really starting to grow. I think it's pretty significant.
Yeah, well, that is a whole, and I think this is common for a lot of specialty retail. I mean, your specialty retail, getting them to browse and expanding. I love that you did that. I love that you expanded to it because it's a lifestyle. Like the horse, the horse world has its own lifestyle brand or arm to it, other than just coming in to get what I need, right? So I'm coming in to get what I need. I come in, I buy it, I leave, right? So yeah, it's been fun watching you do that. It's been really interesting. I know you've been expanding that product line, so that's fabulous. Did you get any resistance? Let me back up. The question I get asked a lot is, I want to buy a business, an existing business that's tired, and a lot of them are, because that happens, right? A lot of energies go, or old ways of thinking. We look at things with fresh lenses, and we come into new businesses, or we buy a business and we have our own input and thoughts and expertise or whatever we're bringing to the table, as you did. Was it difficult to make those changes with the team and with the customer base? Like, are they excited? Like, what was the energy, or was there resistance to all this change that you brought on?
I think with the old staff, there was resistance. We had people that just immediately quit as soon as they found out this shop had sold. And then we had people who quit soon after, and then some folks we were wanting them to move. Right. So probably we turned over almost everybody in the first 60 days or shorter.
I was going to say a little closer to 6 months, but yeah, the majority of the staff turned pretty quickly.
Yeah, we still we have one original person from staff that's still on staff now. So they were set in their ways. They didn't want to have to do anything differently. They didn't like some of the ideas that we had. They didn't want to do them because they had always been done a different way.
Right.
So they weren't really open to it. That's fine. That's okay.
And the horse industry, I think, is very traditional. And so I think that there's you can be a little stodgy and resistant to change. And frankly, to be candid, Robin and I are a lot to deal with. We came in, we closed, I don't know what, 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something.
Yeah.
And we were here within an hour and a half starting to pull the store.
Hi, we're the new owners. That was.
I can't imagine how they must have felt.
That was the transition.
So, and it's constant. It's a moving target all the time. And I like to joke with our now new manager, Angelina, and said, you see all these projects that we're working on that the staff doesn't see. We have 8 other things in the wings that you don't know about yet. Like there's multiple years and phases of what we're planning out for this. And so you have to have your running shoes on when you walk in the door when you work with us, because we're pretty full on.
Now, the good news is, though, the customers were really on board. Like, they were really worried that the store was going to close. They, a lot of them didn't know that there was a different financial owner than the person who ran the store, who had passed away. So they were just waiting for the doors to be closed. And some of them actually thought they were, because there were some problems with Facebook pages. Since she had passed away, the Facebook page was attached to her, so it went away. Like, there was some weird things like that happening. And the customer response has been just overwhelmingly positive. When they heard it was staying open, it was bought by a local person. When we started making some changes and they could see the energy of what we were pouring into the store, nothing but.
It's rare to have someone that has a negative feeling as a result, which I think is a little surprising to us. Maybe we thought we'd get more resistance from the public, but it's been overwhelmingly good.
Yeah. And so that's the most important part, right? Like, the person that's coming in, and like, our customers are the most important part. It's not about us, not about our employees. And employees always seem to be the hardest nut to crack, I guess, and we've always done it this way, that's the death words, right? We just have to evolve and change. And so it is hard. I admire you for, being you're not okay with it, but like, it is what it is. We're coming in, we're making these changes, and being full on is not, it's not a bad thing. New energy is good, and energy is really good. Communicating the changes and having them keep up with you probably is one of your challenges, or is it? Because you're both leadership, you're both in management and leadership training, and you understand that, right? I know that's a big thing. Right. So how are you communicating? How do you share your vision for what you have for this business in the future?
I think one advantage or also disadvantage is we do have a small staff. We have 6 on staff besides us. So it's not, we don't have a huge staff yet. So we have a group text thread that we do with all the staff, which we try to keep that under control because you don't want to blow people's phones up, obviously, but we do that. We typically schedule monthly staff meetings. I think we'd love to have those closer to every 3 weeks because there's so many changes. Sort of busy season, so we're not doing that as well as we used to, but we spend a lot of time doing that. And then with our new management team, that's been a conversation is, you hear us say something 6, 8, 10, 12 times. Staff members may only hear it once. You have to now go out and parrot that. You have to repeat that as well, because I think one of the lessons we've learned over the years in management is we think they hear this and they actually only hear a piece of it. And you have to say it frequently and you have to say it clearly or they can't pick it up.
Yeah. Well, we also have weekly management meetings. That's the goal. Sometimes we miss, and those are hard to keep because there's always something immediate today that we could work on and we can do, and that seems more important than, the hour and a half that we need to go step out of the store and really focus on the future. But if we don't do that, we're not going to hit the goals that we have. We're not going to be able to really grow the store the way we want to in the next few years.
Right. So are you both working in the store?
Not as much as we were, but yeah, we do. We were working tons of hours in the store.
So we typically are not on the schedule, only if we've got vacations or something like that where they need us, we'll be on the schedule. A couple weeks from now, we're doing a setup at a big show here in town. So a remote setup. We'll be working that week because we need double coverage here at the store and at the show. Usually though, we're like, I was in the last couple days for inventory. We've got some inventory that's messed up. So we're trying to complete a store inventory while we're open. So Dan and I and our son have been coming in to do that.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Sorry. Well, we're 2 weeks into having promoted a new manager. And so we're really trying to give her space to find her footing and the staff to understand what her role is and what our new role is. And frankly, I think we're understanding our new roles as well, right? Like we're now coaches and mentors and more vision setters, and which was what we were doing before, but now that's our sole responsibility really. And so there's some tension, I think, from all directions in that. It's a learning curve for everyone, but it's moving along.
Not bad tension, but
no, just growing pains.
Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of, I can't participate in this because that's her job, right? Or his job, like your manager's job. I find that always to be the hardest part. I'm super guilty of that as well too. On paper, it's great. I'm going to hand off these jobs and we're going to, this person's going to be responsible, but it's sometimes hard not to be, in that role as well. It's hard to make that happen. Yeah. So another fascinating thing, or another thing that I get asked a lot, my husband and I work together. We've run several businesses together like you have and still do. Do you have divisions of roles, or are you like specific, like Robin's in charge of something and Dan's in charge of, do you have division of duties, I guess?
I think for us, I don't know that we stated this, but like I was more product and ordering, that type of thing. Dan is our tech person. So he's the systems, the computer systems and the technology and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think we have some that's sort of traditional roles in our marriage, even obviously is, when it's mechanical or building or breaking, a lot of that or whatever, that sort of stuff tends to, be me, and the soft skills and the more behind the scenes kind of that structure is more Robin's thing. Yeah. I think it's important for people to remember we've worked together in other roles before. We've been through, if you're a husband and wife team, you work through everything, and there's great times and there's fights and there's all these things that happen, right? It just happens. But we've been through that for decades in past businesses. And I think we've become in tune for understanding where the other person might be and just in life. Like we all have our sort of ups and downs emotionally and whatever. And hey, he's really in a tough spot, or he's dealing with this. I'm going to step up and handle this, or she's in a down moment. I'm going to step. So I think we handle that ebb and flow pretty well when it comes to that. But just being aware of it, I think, has been a positive for us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I will say, like, I think it is important for folks to understand their lanes, right? Like we in a leadership role that we were at in the past, we used to talk about with that group about staying in your lanes, because outside of your lanes, like if you're in a lane in a pool or in your lane in in an ocean, like there's sharks outside of those lanes, and things get messed up when you get outside of your lanes. Like it messes up the whole system. So we want to stay in our lane as much as we can, which is challenging with a small staff, because sometimes there's only 1 or 2 people on staff at the store. So how do you stay in your lane? Sometimes you do have to come out of that. And then now teaching our leadership folks and things like that to, okay, well, this is your main lane. Try to stay here as much as possible, because when you're here in that lane doing those things, that's when we're going to be growing the store the most. That's when you're going to be contributing the most in the best way.
Yeah, that's a great way. I once heard, I think it was Brene Brown share that she was talking about marriage and couples. And so again, I have been working with my husband since I was 19, and I am not I'm a long ways. Like we started working together decades ago. Decades, which is crazy. But, and again, like you, we've had several businesses, but we actually worked in a business together. We worked in the airlines together for years. But I heard Brene Brown say, like, when you're like, I'm at a 10 today, I'm all in, my energy's high, like I'm good. And, or I'm at a 2, I've got a 2 today. I'm at a 2 today. Like, so that, the other person can pick up the slack. So, and I feel like working entrepreneurial couples, which we have a lot of listeners that are running businesses together, there is that, right? Like, I gotcha, right? Like, I gotcha, like, I will deal with the staff today. Like, it's like, you're like, I just can't. There's just days where, and I've kind of never forgotten that, because that's sometimes I'll go downstairs. I'm like, I'm a 2. I'm at a 2. I'm at a 2. So you pick up each other's slack. So I always thought that was funny. What is something that has been a surprise that maybe, like, looking back to before you bought the business, you wish you had known, or has been a surprise to you?
With regard to Golden Horseshoe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I think it was, I think there's a lot of old stock in the store, and in the previous owner's eyes, they had taken care of that. It had been cleared away, because they had clearance some things out. Okay, cool. But it was like, they did not know, since they didn't work in the store every day, they did not know. And had I to do it over again, I would have asked, can I come and can I just work in the store for several days so I can understand the systems of the store? Because had I understood that, I would have been able to really quickly see how old some of the inventory was, which, was fine. We just saw this huge amount that was sitting there that had been there for a long time. And we're like, okay, we're going to do some clearance sales. We're going to do some marketing on this so we can try to move that along and make space for other things that will sell regularly.
Yeah, I think it's the entire piece of it has moved so much slower than I think our vision for it was going to be. And I think that's a big chunk of it. Is the store was in much worse physical condition than we thought it was, even though we knew it was rough. But the inventory was much worse than we expected. But we knew there was a risk of that, but we didn't know how much it was.
Yeah, and I think so. There's a saying that says you overestimate what you can do in 1 year, and you underestimate what you can do in 5.
Right.
And so I think true to that, we really overestimated what we could do in a year. Like, the year passed and we were like, oh my gosh, that was a full year. My gosh. We've done so many things that seemed like it was just, 3 months, like a quarter or something, right? So I'm anxious to see how we've underestimated what we can do in 5 years.
Yeah. You're anxious to see. Oh, yeah, it's fun. It is retail. We call it retail time. It is interesting. And buying a business, to that point, buying a business. And again, I don't know the structure of buying, how you bought it, but there's usually, this is the inventory number. Like, this is how much inventory we have on hand.
Yeah.
And it is a great point to say, okay, but how much of that is stale dated, and how much has been sitting, and like, what kind of systems do you have in place, and what's your and I'm going to make an assumption, and leap ahead and make an assumption that they didn't have like really active POS systems and reporting for you to look at prior to purchase.
Well, They did. They had a system called RMH, Retail Management Hero. The challenge is how accurate what they had inputted was. Right. So I think there was a couple issues. One, we had small town owners, I'm just going to say it that way, where they were running a business where their cell phone and their vehicle and, their insurances and things like that were their personal expenses were put into the P&L for the store. So one, that was very challenging because it was hard for us to decipher what's a true store expense versus theirs. So that was challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost my train.
No, that's okay. I think it was a couple pieces. One of the difficulties was that because they were removed and they had not been involved in daily operations, there was some distance and some lack of knowledge there. And they're retirement age, right? And so they knew there was a computer system, but they didn't really know what its capabilities were. It's really a pretty powerful system, though it's now antiquated. But what he would do is take that information the manager provided him, distill it into reports that he understood from years past. And we had asked for a couple, 2 or 3 types of reports to try to evaluate the business. He said, well, we can't do that. We can't do that. Later on, we found out you can do it, but no one had the knowledge to actually pull that data. And then the data wasn't fully accurate anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think there was definitely some risk. There was significant risk in the purchase on the inventory side of it.
Yeah. And they said that they had completed an inventory. We got to the point where the purchase of the business was based off of the cost of the inventory, just a flat amount for here's how much your inventory is. And then like a small factor for here's how much the brand is worth after 42 years.
Yeah.
And the way that they did the inventory, it took them a month and a half. We should have known not to trust those numbers. I'm not sure exactly how they did it, but it was not accurate.
And a great reminder to everybody listening, if you're buying a business, you got to get in there. Like you got to get in there. I think yourself almost. And we've sold a couple of businesses with inventory, and for sure, like I'm like, come on in and let's count together, or let's spot count. Like, I don't know. We did a lot. You do a lot of that. And also a really good reminder. And I hope people picked up on that. We've got to keep our books accurate. Even if you are putting your car through it, there has to be a way to pull that out. You might not think you're ever going to sell your business and as you said, buy a business. We've got to look at management, like what does management pay versus what's on the floor and owners pay and all of that. And I see that all the time. I actually have a whole podcast on like buying and selling a business because we have to have those numbers accurate. And we also pay, I'm glad you said that you pay a different price. You pay for an inventory because that's forever changing. Right? Like that changes today to tomorrow. And the goodwill of the brand and usually it's the Facebook pages and all the things that come with the brand sometimes isn't worth what we think it's worth as well too, like because banks won't finance that. So there's a whole thing around that. I mean, it is because 42 years is a really big brand to buy, right? Like that's really cool. Did you change a lot of branding? I mean, you are really good at marketing. You've been marketing your business well. Is that something that was well recognized in town?
The brand was
the Golden Horseshoe brand we updated the brand itself. Just it was the horseshoe with the horse head like you see behind us. We turned it a little bit more elegant, I think, just updated that.
It was more of a hand-drawn sort of a situation, which it looked 1970s and it just was a carryover and it was great. It's a nice nostalgia piece. I wish we had a piece now to show you. But it was part of our thought processes was we want to take the brand that everyone knows and it's known regionally. I mean, there are people in other states that shop with us. Take that, give it a fresh look, give it a cleaner look, that even just the logo being a cleaner look than what it was before, we thought really communicated. We embraced the same color scheme because we wanted some continuity there. Mm-hmm. Continuity with the brand was important, yet an updated, fresh feel. I think that was really it.
And we went from Golden Horseshoe Tack Shop, that's how it's always been known, to Golden Horseshoe Equestrian. We kind of wanted to elevate that and bring in, at some point we want to bring in lifestyle. Whether you're a rider or not, we're still going to have things that you'd be interested in if you're into an equestrian lifestyle.
Right? Yeah, we have to be future planning, right? Like we have to be looking ahead. So I love all this. Dan, I know you've been very active. I don't know if Robin's been at all, but inside the inner circle. And you've been sharing a lot of some of the marketing that you're doing, offsite marketing, trying to bring in some new people, or you're going offsite to shows, I mean, which is a thing, right? Bringing your and I'm loving some of the things you've been actively sharing a lot of really cool things in the inner circle. So A, I want to thank you for that. And B, what is are you finding the marketing like being really great, or like, is it easy for you, or how are you finding marketing this new brand and bringing in new eyeballs to your business?
I think going back to the beginning of it, one of the things that we knew was had a value. They undervalued, in our opinion, I think you agreed with this, they undervalued the brand, which to me made it worth the risk going a little higher on inventory because the brand value was bigger than they thought. And I think that's borne itself out to be accurate. 42 years is nothing to sneeze at, obviously. There is so much, again, I think one of the positives of the equine industry, that sort of slower moving, sometimes stodgy sort of a feel, also brings brand loyalty to it. There's really a significant loyalty to brand in the equine world. Maybe Western a little more than English, but it's definitely there. So I think we've been able to lean into that. The freshness of everything, the freshness of customer service. Like, customer service is absolutely the number one piece of everything that we do. People have responded to that well. And so that first, when they come in the door, that first shock look, like Robin said, you can literally see it on their face. What did I walk into? That tends to carry on throughout the conversation and consultations. Because again, some of our consultations can be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour or longer, especially if we're fitting saddles. And when they leave, overwhelmingly, they say the customer service is way better than it's ever been. Like, the staff pays attention, those types of things. So that part has really helped support the marketing efforts of it. And we knew that we had to go all in on the marketing to go where we want to do. And social media plays a massive role for real estate agents. So we learned the techniques and the processes to do that sort of thing. And so we just basically took those ideas and those same technologies and implanted them in here, understanding. I mean, I've spent more than 10 years working in social media. I started running social media ads in real estate before that was a thing, long before it was ever a thing. And we actually don't run ads yet. Everything we do is organic still to this point. We haven't moved there, but understanding the power, the exponential power of social media was really critical, and understanding how many posts need to go out and what needs to happen. And it's part of a bigger picture, because it's all a puzzle, right? Marketing is all a puzzle. And we barely even tapped into some of the pieces at this point, but it has been a big help. It's been very popular. And I think we're moving in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do, but we're moving in the right direction.
I think what we're really good at is the organic social media. Like, there's no end to what we can post about. We're constantly opening up new boxes and new product and restocking and things like that we can take pictures or whatever and, and shoot and do that on a regular basis. It's almost too much to keep up with, right?
Yeah.
I think where we're challenged is we have data, we have cell phone numbers, we have emails, that we don't have a regular marketing strategy with those yet. Ads on Facebook, like, there's a lot of places we can go and a lot of things we can do to bolster our marketing. And now that we have a manager in place for the store and we have a social media coordinator, we've got some help with that. And it's not just the two of us. So we'll be able to start actually doing them.
Yeah.
Right. And now you also have your feet wet. You know what the strategy needs to be, right? Like, I think that's a lot of people just start posting on social media. Like you said, we've got lots of content. We've got a whole store full of cool things. Everybody loves everything about, horses and the world you're in. However, you have to have strategy around that. So, and I know that's got to come first. Like, why? What are we doing? Well, we want more leads. We want new, we want to get them in the door, foot traffic, increase the foot traffic, increase conversion. And, once we attach, I mean, that's what, that's my jam. I love that. And listeners know, they've been listening for a while. I love, but you have to have strategy around it. So again, having these people to support you is going to be great, because you'll be able to attach the strategy. Here's our goal. Here's the number we're doing, we're headed for. So audience building is, it's important. And it doesn't have to be ads. I know that you said you might do those in the future, but, just doing the organic stuff first, right, is with purpose. Right, with purpose.
I think it's really important for listeners to understand, and I think this dovetails well with the way you talk about it. You have to understand what your goal is. Are you brand building, or are you lead generating? Are you strengthening relationships with your current clients, or are you finding new clients? And most of our marketing work currently over the last year and a half, has been strengthening relationships and building the brand, not necessarily bringing in new people. So a lot of times we're preaching to the choir, as it were, but we're also strengthening the connections, which, a customer that's already in the store, if you can keep them coming back, that's much easier to have sales from than a new customer. So So that's kind of phase 2 is the new customer for it. So if I were going to tell people something, it's one is be consistent. You have to be consistent. Consistency is ridiculously important. It's the most important piece. And being on brand with your message. Our marketing supervisor, she snickers every time I must say on brand, 3 times a day to her. But it's a critical piece. It's consistency. This is what, and we don't define the brand, frankly. The customers in perception is what really defines the brand. And
Every
so,
time.
yeah, every time. But we have to be consistent. We have to have certain rules around how we do those types of pieces. And then, like I said, understand that right now it's brand building. It's not lead generating. Lead generating is next for us.
Yeah. And the brand comes from the customer experience that you're providing, right? So again, I know that that's an important piece for you. You've mentioned that a couple times. So the customer experience of the Golden Horseshoe, what does that look like? And then, like you said, as long as everybody, and then that creates the culture in the new culture for the Golden Horseshoe, not the old culture. It can still be the same brand. Because I think where people get confused is, you have the Golden Horseshoe, you bought this 40, it didn't have to stay the same, right? It didn't stay tired. It didn't stay, it had a great reputation as the go-to for, equestrian supplies. And now you've just enhanced it evolved it, I guess, to what you want your brand. So yes, you can buy a business, you can make changes and still keep the core go-to and again, we have to have the culture of all our team and staff. I think you've done a beautiful job of taking a business and that has a wonderful reputation you're still the go-to, right? That you're still, like you said, you still get the same customers. You said earlier, you haven't heard anything negative and you made the tough choices with staff or whatever, or you just had a vision, I guess, to evolve that brand. So hats off to you guys for making those shifts and maintaining the reputation of a really great brand, right? So yeah, it's been really great to watch it. I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't ask you, Dan, again, I don't know if Robin's been involved at all, but are there any of the Inner Circle master classes or have you found any support in the Inner Circle that's been helpful throughout this journey? I know you've been involved quite a bit in the Inner Circle itself, so.
Well, I would say I haven't been involved enough, frankly, to be honest with you. I have been through a couple of the master classes and they have been helpful because of our experience. As in this is always the case, some things are remedial and then some things are new, right? And so it's finding, and then some things I just need to be reminded of. So we had our most recent management meeting day before yesterday with our staff manager and our marketing supervisor. And that was the conversation was, I want you to devote some hours in the master classes and there's specific ones I want you to, I went through the inventory master class and I'm anxious for her specifically to get through that so we can compare notes, see what we learned, because your approach is much more mature than ours when it comes to inventory and we need to learn that. So yeah, there's a ton of information in there to learn if people will lean into it.
Yeah, we were looking, I haven't dived into it yet, but when we were looking at this, we saw the holiday classes. So we're like, okay, this is great timing now to look at those so that we can be prepared for our holiday season.
Yeah. So fun story on that. When this goes live, we've upgraded, we're updating our holiday boot camp. We've been doing it for 7 years. The one that you see live right now, in your view, as we're recording this, in July, literally this week, it's getting a whole new fresh look. So we're adding all kinds of resources. I'm excited about what we're doing with that. So your whole team will probably like it for marketing and because the holidays, it's the time, right? So I always love to say, getting your team prepared, getting yourselves prepared, inventory, product, marketing, everything, as early as possible. Then we can do what we do best during the busy time. Running around trying to do the marketing and trying to do we should run an event, right? So let's plan that in August when it's a little quieter maybe. But yeah, so thanks for sharing and thank you for showing your staff the sessions as well too. I think that's an important part is that they understand why we're telling them the shop standards. I might harp on that one a little bit too much sometimes, but one of the things that's really important is the customer experience. So understanding this is where our shop standards are. And sometimes me telling them versus, and I say me telling them watch this session because this is where it's coming from. This is why we're doing this, is I always joke and say that when mom says things, nobody listens, but when somebody else does, when the teacher does or whatever. So yeah, so as we're wrapping up, is there anything else? Is there any surprises? Just one from each of you. Surprise joys, things that you're surprised that you love about the retail side versus maybe the real estate side.
Listen, I get to shop a whole lot. Like, this is super exciting. We open boxes up of horse stuff all the time. It's phenomenal.
I stopped looking in the back of the horse trailer. I don't want to know what new colors are out. So, yeah.
I mean, that's just fun. I think the thing that I would say to wrap up though is we look at any business as a way to build wealth. And the way that you build wealth is you remove yourself from the business so it becomes a passive income, right? Yeah. Right now, it's not passive for us. We're working in the business a lot of hours, whether we're in the store or not. And our goal with anything is to be minimally involved so that we have that income and our time is our own, but we get that freedom. And I would hope that I think a lot of shop owners don't think like that. Like they just think that they're going to be in the business year after year, decade after decade. And I think that holds them back. With the idea of us wanting to be out of the business, wanting to have it as a passive, we're looking for talent. We're looking to pour into our folks so that we can grow them into what we need them to be to take over, so we don't have to be here all the time. And whether or not you're completely gone from the business, that really helps you, right? When you pour into people and you invest in them to make them better, that only helps you.
Yeah, it does. It helps. I mean, if you find someone's genius, one, you can leverage them to take some of the pressure off of you, and two, you give them job satisfaction that they're not going to get another way. And I think that's been, I think, a positive for us. Yeah. So I don't. For me, it's been. I had a vision of what this type of store would be, and the more time I spend looking at other opportunities, like Robin said, and just trying to expand my mindset on what visions can be, there's now 4 other levels of what this business can look like, and the opportunities are far greater than I ever perceived. In fact, I think I scare people a little bit with what I think can happen, and I frankly have no idea how we're going to get there. But this is just, we're almost getting ready to close out phase 1 of 5, and so I never would have expected the possibilities that I see now.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And thank you, Robin, for sharing that about being it's an asset that you're building. It's like, it can be a fun and joy-filled and, like cool, like, right, to run a retail business, but it doesn't have to be a job, a job, right? Which you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people just like look at it as like, well, it's going to be my job now for the rest of my life, so wonderful reminder to everybody that, we're building different things and we can still be part of it. We're running it. Like you said, you have, Dan, I think you and I would probably have a great conversation sometime over a cup of coffee, because I'm the same. I have like all these phases of, I can picture it, and sometimes my team go like, stop it. It's like, but it's true.
I'm like, wow, where did that come from? But okay.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's fun. That's the creative brain as well too, right? The creative entrepreneur's brain, but with constraints around it, right? Like here's how we're going to do it, right? So it has to happen. But I love that you're nurturing and training people behind you. You're grooming them to run the business for you, and that's the key point. So I love that, and I love what you're doing with your shop. It's been fun to watch. So we'll make sure that we have all the links to follow, so they can go follow you. Everybody can go follow. We love to wrap up the podcast with rapid fire questions. Are you guys game?
Sure.
Yeah, Robin looks scared.
No, I am a little. I am. Yes.
They're not scary. I'm laughing because I've got both of you. Favorite vacation spot? Do you have a mutual one or do you have separate ones?
Highway 30A in Florida.
Yeah, Gulf Coast of Florida.
Gulf Coast 30A. Okay. Favorite current business book or podcast?
Ooh.
Mine is Bold by Peter Diamandis. Is the one I've just finished up that blew my mind.
I'm going to go back to an oldie but a goodie, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
So that is a great book, and I haven't heard anybody comment on that or mention that in a long time. And Dan, you shared the book. I just ordered it actually from my local bookstore, bookshop, because you shared that in the inner circle. So can't wait to dig in. I love that. Complete this statement. I lose track of time when? Dan?
I lose track of time when I can get into flow. When I can get into a flow state of work, I totally lose track of time. And it's awesome.
Yeah, ditto. Me too. Robin?
Yeah. I never lose track of time because I want to be on time.
You would.
I know when
Like,
I'm
very
scheduled
organized.
and where I need to be. And I mean, that sounds really weird. I think that is me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have different strengths? Like, are you like the on-time person and Dan's not, maybe? Or is that? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Move along.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, we could have another conversation about that. So that's my husband and I too. We have completely different strengths, but that's okay. It's all good. Works together in harmony.
Yep.
Yeah. It helps like with that balance. So thank you both for being here. I truly appreciate it. I know we've gone a little longer than I said we would because I feel like I could ask you a million questions. I think what you've been sharing with our members or our listeners has been so helpful. So thank you for being here today.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you were here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.